Despite widespread awareness and outcry against it, rape seems to be on the increase in Nigeria. Statistics state that 4 in 10 girls and 1 in 10 boys have been sexually abused in our society. Nigeria's Minister of Women Affairs, Pauline Tallen, puts the figure of women and girls raped yearly at 2 million. There may not be specific statistics on rape, but there is no denying the fact that crimes of rape take place in Nigeria every day, irrespective of available laws. What more can government do, and how can parents protect their children and world? Today, we are focusing on tackling rape and child sexual abuse in Nigeria. Welcome to Break It Down, where we make matters of governance, societal issues, policies, progress, and development easily understood by all. Hello and welcome to Break It Down. Today we are discussing tackling rape and child sexual abuse in Nigeria. And with me is Lemmy Ughegbe. Lemmy Ughegbe is a renowned human rights activist and advocacy director. Make a Difference initiative. MAD. I like that name. When society decides to go mad, maybe you need some mad actions to tackle it. He is also the convener, Men Against Rape movement. You're welcome.
My pleasure being with you today.
So let's look at Men Against Rape. Why Men Against Rape?
Okay, Men Against Rape is a response to the yawning gap between the reactionary rhetorics of government and other stakeholders and concrete action. It's a reaction and a response to the absence of men joining, taking the front seat actually, the driver's seat, in tackling the menace of rape and child sexual abuse. You would recall that over the past few years, it's been very crazy news that we've been getting about the incidents of rape and child sexual abuse. But unfortunately, women have been in the forefront of this, and of course, Make a Difference initiative also has been spending a lot of energy, a lot of effort doing advocacy, doing enlightenment campaigns, doing workshops to tackle this. But we noticed that most men have stood aloof from this issue. Now, rape is a human thing. Society cannot grow great if men stand aloof and watch other men subjugate, subdue, and rape women and children. Our greatness lies in the wellness, mental health, wellness, and care of children and women. So, Men Against Rape was born by Make a Difference initiative as a response to helping bridge the gap and raising a pool of men committed to joining hands and leading the battle to rid society of sex crimes, particularly as it affects children, because the most gory of it all is that even we see little children, 3 months, 6 months, 2 years, 4 years, being violated, being defiled, being raped. It's senseless, it's maddening, and no real man should stand aloof and just watch it happen. We must take responsibility, we must take the driver's seat, we must get men who are committed. And happily, since we launched the Men Against Rape movement, we are proud to say that Nigerian men seem to have been waiting for a body.
I was going to ask that question. What is the response from the male demographic? Because it is generally believed that it is men who commit rape, and it is men who enable rape. How have they reacted to Men Against Rape?
Yes, that assertion is not a misnomer. As a matter of fact, it's correct, because yes, more men do commit the offense, and of course, statistics, the UNICEF brought out a report in 2015 and said 1 in 10 girls get violated, and 1 in 10 boys rather get violated before their 18th birthday, and 4 in 10 girls get violated. That's in the case.
So what that means
yes.
is that when you have 10 girls,
yes.
4
yes.
may happen
raped. Yes, yes. Okay. And that's 40% of the population of the girl child, of the female gender, while 10% of the male gender would have been violated. So if you extend that statistics to the claim that we have 200 million Nigerians today, if we were to split it in two, 50% for men, 50% for women, it simply means that about 10 million men would have been violated or will be violated before their 18th birthday. And 40%, that's about 40 million women too would have been violated. Yes, in the population. Yes, that will mean about 25% of our population of 200 million would have been violated. That is crazy, because the psychosocial effect is that you have a lot of people depressed, you have a lot of people mad, you have a lot of people mentally sick.
So can we say that is the result of what we are seeing today in the society, an increase in rape cases?
Yes, it's part of the reason, because again, if you've seen the book, The Pedagogue of the Oppressed, he says the oppressed in his oppression wants to be an oppressor. So a victim of rape or child sexual abuse grows up bitter, grows up sad, grows up sick, has a lot of behavior that are antisocial. Chances are that a lot of them actually would also suffer what is called the re-victimization syndrome. That means they end up wanting to do the same thing to others. I've been victimized. You remember in the days when HIV/AIDS was rife, when a man discovers or a woman discovers that he or she has contracted it, what do they think? They think of how they want to, after all, someone gave it to me, so let me give it to some other person. But the person who has suffered as a victim of child sexual abuse, a survivor, is really, again, not surviving, because we do not have psychotherapy. Government has not made efforts to make sure that this happens. The civil society too have not made so much effort of that. So there is nobody managing that person from the state of survival to being, because you really are not a survivor when you've suffered this and you have not been mentally rehabilitated. You are more or less a victim who is just walking in trouble. And we've seen cases where father would have violated his daughter. I personally have investigated a case of a 6-year-old girl who was actually fondling and pulling the genitals of her classmate, a boy. And eventually, when we investigated, it takes time to get information from kids. You have to win their confidence, you have to talk with them, you have to play with them, you have to become a kid to be able to get the confidence of a kid. But upon investigation, that girl confirmed that she pulls the boy's pee-pee. Every family avoids calling the genitals the real name. I say, pulls the pee-pee. I say, how did you learn it? And I did like it was not a big deal. Instead, I was laughing. Eventually, the girl said, when I am home with my daddy and my baby sister at that time was 7 months old, and we're in the room with my daddy, he brings out his pee-pee and puts it in my baby sister's mouth, and she takes it like feeding bottle. Okay? Now, that's a case I investigated directly. Now, that child, who is 6 years, must have also been taking the daddy's pee-pee like feeding bottle when she was younger, and now has thought that that kind of thing is not a problem, it's not wrong. So in her ignorance and innocence, the child was already victimizing another boy, re-victimization as it were, without knowing that it was a bad thing she was doing. How do you tackle that? You want to get the mother involved in a nice way. Mother reacts badly and does not want to hear of it.
When one parent is violating, another parent is enabling. Why is this the case?
Yes.
Why can't a mother, for example, stand up for herself and her child?
Yes.
There must be a reason.
The sociology of sex crime, of child sexual abuse, it's actually frightening. Without making excuses, we've taken our time to thoroughly investigate why particularly a mother keeps it hush. We talk about the tyranny of culture, tyranny of religion, the sociology of the crime. Most times, more often than not, the woman married to that pedophile father, incestuous father, is a woman who is almost 100% financially dependent on the man. She's also thinking survival, one. Two, society criminalizes you, who should be a victim, the moment you raise alarm and tell the police about it. So even the society doesn't help matter. It says you went to call police on your husband. Three, the society again begins to stigmatize both mother and children. So a lot of advocacy and enlightenment is needed, while of course the woman too needs to, I say it, for a woman to be able to rise up to the challenges of parenting and motherhood in the 21st century, she must acquire some basic life skills so that at least you have 1 naira you earn daily. Because if you watch it, more often than not, it is those people down the ladder that keep quiet. A female lawyer whose husband has violated her daughter is not likely going to keep quiet. It doesn't mean that once in a while those don't happen. Yes, some do. It doesn't mean that they don't. But the percentage, the average of those who will keep quiet is far lower up there than those who will keep quiet down the ladder.
Sometimes we also have to identify what exactly rape is.
Yeah.
Because sometimes, like in Africa, for example, they call it rite of passage for some boys.
Yeah.
I know a lot of my friends who would tell me they got their first sexual experience when they were very young, maybe by nannies, the nurse, the family nurse, or even maybe their father took them to the home of such things to do it.
I'll respond this way to that. That's why I've talked about the sociology. Then we'll talk about the tyranny of our laws. Okay? Let's first of all take the rite of passage, as you mentioned, by me sharing the story of my very good friend and a partner, Wanda Ebe. She's the founder of Wanda Adu Foundation. She's giving me consent to say this because she shares her story. She was 5 years old when a nanny started abusing her. The nanny will actually make her put her mouth in the nanny's genital.
A female?
And yes, a female nanny, and make her lick her. And beyond that, even when the nanny is in a monthly circle, the nanny still makes her do that. Okay? By the time she was about 8 to 9 years, she got a bit of courage to speak, and she resisted the nanny. What did the nanny do? The nanny scarred her for life, poured boiling water on her from this point down. Okay? Now, the little girl said she could not tell her parents that the nanny willfully, deliberately did that. Why? Her parents both were working class people. They hardly would be home with her. So even if she says that, nanny has already threatened repeatedly that I'll kill you, I'll kill you. So and she spends most of the time with the nanny. So she couldn't talk. Not until she was 32 years old before she opened her mouth and spoke about it. Today she's doing wonders, helping to save children in distress and all.
How can we help children in such situations? We already said, number one, we don't even allow them call the genital. We don't allow them call the name.
Yeah.
That makes it like a forbidden thing.
Absolutely.
And that is why I think most of them even hide when somebody touches them, when somebody gets them to touch them. How can society help children, really? How can parents help their children? What must a parent do?
A lot of work needs to be done. Unfortunately, the parents now are still operating like 16th century parents in view of the fact that they do not want to call a spade a spade. Sexuality education is rife. Teaching the children ethics and etiquette, how a boy should behave, how a girl should behave. We've spent a lot of time. You would see that if you have a girl child.
What about society? What about television, the mass media?
Yes,
for example?
there's so
because
much.
Now I want to call the names. I want to say yes, this is this and this is
yes.
that. But
we are restrained by the NBC code.
Myself.
We are even restrained by the NBC code not to call certain names also. So, but these are part of the advocacies we must do as civil society. We really need to do advocacy, get to NBC. My organization, especially the Men Against Rape, are going to be doing a lot of those advocacy to go out to NBC also, because there are things that mustn't be done. One, sexuality education will require that as soon as that child is already 6 months old, you must begin to put some things, say some things. These kids are much more intelligent than we think. Begin to teach. It has to be age compliant teaching. As the child grows to 2 years, there are the way you teach the child. As the child grows again to 4 years, you begin to teach till the child grows up to that point. So
talking to the common man now, the common woman out there, the woman who just has a child or has a female or a male child. Can you break it down? What exactly, in simple language, what must they teach the child? For example, where do you start from?
They must teach the child
from
for
6 months.
Yes.
You start telling them.
Yes, you start telling the child, talking about the body part. Yes,
of the body
part. And you begin to, because
so you know what we mean by body parts.
Yeah. So you begin to also ensure that we change the way we were raised. Make sure that your kids are your best friends. You must be the first go-to person. You must be the first line of responders. Once the kids know that no matter what I tell mommy or daddy, they will still love me as I am, they will feel free to say it. We saw a video that went viral of a little girl of about 2 years old that was abused by a neighbor. Instead of the mother taking serious steps, the mother was beating up the child and calling the child a prostitute. Now, there's so much education and re-education we need to do, because according to Adjonak, the illiterate of the 21st century is not the man who cannot read and write, it's the man who cannot learn, unlearn and relearn. Parents need to relearn these codes so they know that, one, this century we are in, you must, one, make your child your best friend. Two, you must be able to teach them sexuality education early. Three, we need to call on government to put in the education curriculum, sexuality education. I
was going to ask who does the teaching beyond the immediate family.
Yes.
We'll take a break now. Okay. When we come back, we'll talk about teaching your child of her sexuality or his sexuality, and also the laws that protect the victim and also punishes the offender. We'll be back. Hello, you're still on Break It Down, and we're still discussing tackling rape and child sexual abuse in Nigeria. And I am still with Lemmy Ughegbe of the Men Against Rape Initiative. So we're talking about teaching the child about his or her sexuality and rape itself. What's the difference between rape and actual, I'm choosing my words.
Okay.
Some say when there's penetration, it's rape. When there's no penetration, it's not rape.
Yes. Now, the law then, of course, had limited it to the penetration of the female organ. But now, the penetration is extended. Penetration can be via the mouth, it can be via the ear, it can be by any means and by any object whatsoever. It doesn't even mean that it is until let's assume the male uses his genitals to penetrate that is rape. even if
what
he
about
uses an organ.
Fondling?
Yes, fondling too amounts, because that's a sexual activity. Even making a child see pornography or using the child as a subject of pornography is child sexual abuse. Okay, so it's multifaceted, but the important thing now is that the laws, especially the Violence Against People's Prohibition Act, has brought it up to speed that penetration does not have to be with the male organ alone. Once there is of any form, any sort of penetration by any object that gives sexual, that gives the semblance of some sexual activity without consent is rape.
So these laws, are they adequate? That we haven't heard too much about punishment.
Okay, the interesting thing is that you have the Violence Against People's Prohibition Act and you have the Child Rights Act. Many states haven't passed any of those laws because once it's done by the National Assembly, the states need to domesticate. So most of the states, for instance, in the north haven't domesticated. Now, earlier I talked about the tyranny of our laws. If you are 17 years old, 17 years, 11 months, and 28 days old, you cannot decide who governs you, whether at local government level, at state, or at federal. But, for instance, the penal code, which is the tyranny of our law, which I insist encourages sexual and gender-based violence, encourages rape and child sexual abuse. The law or the penal code provides that when a child is 14 years old, or even if less than 14, even 9, if she has started showing signs of puberty, then she can be rightly married and engaged in sexual activity. Whereas the grand norm of our country is the Constitution of the Federal Republic. And it strikes that any law, any other law other than the Constitution of the Federal Republic, to the extent of its inconsistency with the provision of the Constitution, is null and void. So if the Constitution says 18, under 18 is a child, even at 17 years and 11 months you are a child, it means you cannot vote. How does the penal code now allows for a 14-year-old girl or a girl less than that who has signs of puberty to be married off and engaged in sexual activities?
What do they really mean when they say the age of consent? I don't know what law is that.
Yes, we are talking about the penal code as against the Constitution.
It's penal.
Yes, it's the penal code. The North uses the penal code. The South uses the criminal code. Now, a few states, and I want to give credit to, because the North is really, it's a challenging time in the North, especially with the penal code. But for me, I insist that the law takes its course. And because anybody can blame it on the devil. Nobody has stolen and been caught and he say, yes, I really wish to steal. They say it's the devil. Okay?
Thank you very much for being on this show. Thanks a lot. You have really educated us. I always like to be educated, as I like my viewers to be educated on this show. Thanks a lot.
It's been my pleasure.
And thanks for watching Break It Down. We'll be back again, same time next week. Goodbye.